All right, next up, we're being asked specifically to find the height. So, first things first, don't assume anything. Don't assume we're dealing with a certain shape. Don't assume we're dealing with a certain formula, a certain perimeter or area. We really have to just understand what we're dealing with first. Yeah, we're looking for height, but what is the shape? And it says triangular sign. Okay, cool. Now, are we dealing with Pythagorean theorem? Are we dealing with area, perimeter? What are we dealing with? And we see here that it says area. Right there, clearly it says area. So this triangle has a certain area, and they give you the base. We're looking for the height. Now it makes a little more sense. So to help yourself represent how this is all supposed to go down, here's my recommendation. Let's write that formula for the area of a triangle. Area equals base times height divided by 2. Just like that. Base times height divided by 2. Now, from here, we're going to plug everything in. I am looking for the height. I am looking for this right here. So what that tells me is I should have something plugged in for A. I should have something plugged in for the base. And that's what these are going to be. Area is 48 square inches. And then we have the base is 16. We'll plug those values in exactly as we saw them, exactly where they're supposed to be. 48 for the area. My base is 16. My height I'm still looking for, so I'll leave that as a capital H. And then we have 2 right over here. So now that we're here, a lot of people are going to be looking at this and say, hey, coach, I'm a little nervous about dealing with, 16. What do I do with that 2? What do I do with all of this? Here's what we do. Everyone, help me out here. When we're dealing with fractions and you potentially have a number in the numerator that could be divided by the number in the denominator, what is that term called? It starts with an S. Oh yeah, that's simplification. We're trying to simplify here. We're trying to simplify. Everybody, what is 16 divided by 2? That's going to be a pretty convenient one. That is going to be 8. So if I take the 16 and the 2 together, you can divide those and get 8. So this turns into 48 equals 8 multiplied by H. One more question, my party people. What is the opposite of multiplying by 8? That's going to be dividing by 8 on both sides. And what is that going to give us? 48 divided by 8 has us end up with a cancellation on the right, and H equals 6. 6 inches in this case, since we're dealing with the rectangular signs, dimensions, and inches. But there we go. That is why the correct answer here is answer choice B. If we would have thought that this was a rectangle, we would have gotten A accidentally. But knowing the proper formula that fits in before calculating, that makes all the difference, and I hope you see that. And let's get going on this next one. So, starting off here, first thing we'll do is we'll read that question sentence. So technically it starts over here, but I'm going to start reading right here. The who, what, when, where, how many, which of the following, that's where the question statement actually starts. So here it says, how many medals were awarded in total? Okay, so right there, I'm going to be very specific. I'm going to make sure I write down that I want the total number of medals. Right there equals blank. That's my goal. That's what I want. Now, remember, if you have information given to you in that same sentence, it's very, very likely that it's related to solving the problem. So I see here that it says, if 18 silver medals were given out, how many medals were awarded in total? Okay, sounds good. So I'm going to say silver equals 18. And then we're looking for the total. And if we take a look at the first sentence, we see that it says bronze and silver medals are awarded are in a 2-to-3 ratio. Be very careful. Remember that we're looking for total, and it says bronze and silver medals awarded are in a 2-to-3 ratio. So when I write that down, be very careful. I see that my ratios Right over here, bronze was first, so that represents 2. Silver was listed second, so the 3 represents silver. So when I write down these values, I'm going to make sure that I write it consistently. Silver equals 3 in terms of the ratio, in terms of the comparison. But this is where the mistake that most people will make comes into play. Most people will really try to just make it work, make the numbers that you have work in some way, shape, or form, and you might make this mistake writing bronze over here, and then boom, bronze equals 2. Here's the problem with that. The problem with this is that if you believe that this is your proportion, it's wrong. Because sure, we have silver first, but the comparisons aren't the same here. We're doing silver to total, silver to bronze. That's a problem, a very big problem, because if you assume that this will work, you're not getting the total number of medals. You're actually getting bronze. So we have to be careful there, everybody. A much better way to see this or represent this is if we just kind of move this over, nudge this over, and we have a choice to make. We can say that we're trying to find the bronze right over here and just focus on this. Let me use a different color. We can just focus on this for our proportion. And everybody, you tell me, if I were to work on this in this way and get this bronze value right over there, what am I supposed to do with that number once I get it? What am I supposed to do with it? Yeah, once we get bronze, to get total, we're just going to add things up. That's it. We're just going to add things up. Silver plus bronze will give you that total. But here's the thing about this one. Remember that with proportions, as long as you compare the same things in the same way, you're good. So let me show you what that looks like. Let me give you a real easy time. Everyone, if we want to find the total, let's go ahead and compare it to the total down here. And let me show you how to do that. It's going to be actually very straightforward because everyone, just like you said, to get a total, we're just going to add. So check it out. Silver is 3, bronze is 2. That means my total here is 5. And what I'm going to focus on is comparing silver to total, silver to total. I'm going to ignore this. I'm going to ignore that. I'm just going to compare silver to total, and when I do this, watch. I'll put a T for total, and so I'll have silver up top, total on the bottom. Then we're going to write 18 over total equals 3 over 5. Again, silver over total. So now that we're here, we're good to go. We can cross multiply and divide if we wanted to. Sure, we can also compare the same things in the same way and save ourselves some time, because I did notice that going from 3 to 18, that's times 6. And so 5 times 6, that's going to give us 30. And that is actually the answer. But I can go ahead and cross multiply here if you'd like me to. So we can do t times 3, 3t. And then we can do 18 times 5, which will be 90. And if you don't believe me, no worries, I got you. 18 times 5, 8 times 5 is 40. Carry the 4. 1 times 5 is 5. Carry the 4 is 9. So then we have 3t equals 90. And from there, we can divide both sides by 3. And we still get that same correct answer, t equals 30. Either way, we're still good, but that gives us the true total. If you would have gotten D12, that means that you ended up getting bronze and forgot to add the silver and bronze together. So it's really all about paying attention to what the problem is asking you for. But nonetheless, the answer is C, 30.